Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Good any time of the day or night, wherever you are. Peace and blessings. And thank you for joining me again today with just a little bit more of your time. Thankfully, I was able to get this portion done, and I still do have to add some things to it at the end, but my goal is to get it posted tonight. So we'll see how that works out. In the meantime, we're going on with the rest of that preface from The American Nightmare, the history of Willie Lynch. And we will get started with this final part of the preface. And we'll see you on the other side. Let us not forget that this acromous opaque minded subgroup claimed to be Christians and referenced the King James Bible, whose version they cherish. However, it seems only to the degree that they could use it to further oppress African people and their descendants, and they embraced this version, when in fact it was filled with gross misinterpretations. Rather, they disfavored passages like Matthew 25:41 through 46, which reads, Then shall he say also unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was an hungered, and you gave me no meat. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and you took me not in, naked, and you clothed me not, sick and in prison, and you visited me not. Then shall they also answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered, or athirst, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister unto thee? Then shall he answer them, saying, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as you did it not to one of the least of these, you did it not to me. And these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into life eternal. I don't know who they believe in, but whatever that is, I want nothing to do with it. For you see, this passage read, I was a stranger. Africans and their descendants were strangers in America, having been forcefully taken from their land, and the acromous opaque minded subgroup thought it was the will of their God to do nothing to regard Africans and their descendants as equal or human, to beat, torture, subjugate, lynch, enslave, set afire them via slavery and Jim Crow while enjoying a family picnic. Matthew 7:12 states, Therefore, all things whatsoever you do to men, that men should do to you, do you even to them, for this is the law and the prophets. When they were sick, they were made to work anyway, in the fields, in the big house, at whatever work needed to be done, completely disregarding Matthew 7:12. Therefore, all things whatsoever you would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them. For this is the law and the prophets. When they were naked, they gave them clothes to wear, until the clothes were so ragged that they had no choice but to replace them, choosing to disregard Matthew 7:12. Therefore, all things whatsoever you would that men should do to you, do you even so to them. For this is the law and the prophets. They were imprisoned in the hulls of the slave ship that brought them over here and into chattel slavery, and they weren't ministered unto, opting to disregard Matthew 7:12. Therefore, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do you even so to them, for this is the law and the prophets. Ephesians 6:9, and ye masters, do the same thing unto them, forbearing, threatening, knowing that your master also is in heaven. Neither is there respect of persons with him. Neither is there respect of persons with him. Neither is there respect of persons with him. And Colossians 4:1, masters, give unto your servants that which is just and equal. Just and equal. Just and equal, knowing that ye also have a master in heaven. The Acramist OPEC-minded subgroup even created a slave Bible during slavery that espoused verses that affirmed their heinous treatment of Africans and their descendants. And before anyone presents 1 Peter 2:18 through 25, stating that the servant's obligation was to obey his or her master, the passage does not negate or relegate the aforementioned verses to a command of lesser weight. However, this Acramist OPEC-minded subgroup were Christians. Now, got to remember that. No, thank you. I'll pass. The only way that they could do this with a sense of entitlement, guiltless and conscience free, was to relegate Africans as less than on every level, a characteristic that I believe is coded in their DNA. This is why they have fought so hard against reparations for African descendants, because making reparations and paying African descendants what they are owed would literally bankrupt these United States of America. We must always remember that the two things that drove the Acramist OPEC-minded subgroup more than anything else was their love of money and wealth and their disdain for Africans and their descendants. The Acramist OPEC-minded subgroup wants us to forget. They want to distract us with movies and series and sports and music and fake news. Distractions from their hidden agenda, which is and always has been to always hold the upper hand and always hold us as second-class citizens.
All Republicans and Democrats and independents across this nation, I say it is time for us to come together as one united people. It's time. I pledge to every citizen of our land that I will be president for all Americans, and this is so important to me. We abolished 60 years of prejudice and hatred with the signing of one order, all approved by the United States Supreme Court. We're allowed to do it because we are now in a merit-based world.
That was President Trump today boasting about ending hiring protections for federal contractors. And by doing so, he highlights the stark reality we face. It took him days to reverse decades of hard-fought progress on civil rights. On Tuesday, Trump revoked an executive order signed by President Lyndon Johnson in 1965 that banned federal contractors from discriminating on the basis of race, gender, or religion.
Now, you will have to have the Acramist OPEC-minded subgroup declare, no, we are working diligently as we can to change things in the United States so that things are better for everyone. Hogwash. I'm going to need receipts. How do you plan to immigrate 8,000 people with their own history of apartheid, which was South Africa's Jim Crow, and place them at the head of the migrant line while simultaneously deporting people who don't resemble the acrimous OPEC minded subgroup? Because make no mistake, this is blatant, full on racism. This has not and has never been their intention to have African descendants on par with the parent group, let alone the acrimous OPEC minded subgroup. It is the reason for the existence of Project 2025, Agenda 47, and the direction in which this current administration is moving. The forced exodus of people who don't resemble the acrimous OPEC minded group. It doesn't escape me that those immigrants who resemble the acrimous OPEC minded group are not being deported. It doesn't escape me that acrimous OPEC minded Afrikaners, immigrants of the people who used their version of Jim Crow in South Africa against true Africans, have been welcomed to these United States of America while simultaneously deporting non-acrimous. It was the great Maya Angelou who said, when a person shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And by extension, I say if a person shows you that they don't like you, believe them the first time. When a person shows you that they don't respect you, believe them the first time. If a person or when a person shows you that they are racist, believe them the first time. My beloved mother said, people watch your walk, they don't listen to your talk. People will show you better than they will tell you. Believe half of what they say and everything they show you. I submit that the mantra of African descendants be, we will remember. I further submit that we should begin to commemorate the atrocities that were visited upon us during slavery, during Jim Crow, during the implementation of the Willie Lynch method, and the modern day atrocities that we suffer at the hands of those who are supposed to be here to protect and serve our community as they do others. Of the inequity and inequality that we endure still today, of the discrimination that is visited upon us still today, of the redlining that is practiced against us still today, of the subpar health care that we withstand still today, of the stripping away of our civil rights that we face still today, of the disproportionate incarceration that we endure still today, of the extraordinary imbalance in sentencing that we undergo still today, of the Supreme Court declaring that racism does not exist in these United States of America still today. And as long as there is a still today, we should remember. We must remember. We will remember. Now, what are we remembering? We're remembering the atrocities of being stripped and ripped from our motherland and forced to come to this country, forced into slavery, forced to give up our culture, our customs, our names, our ancestors, our grandparents, our parents, our siblings, our natural way of life, our languages, our almighty worship one, our food, our clothing, our community, our commerce, our villages, our environment, and everything that they forced us to leave behind. We must remember how we were indoctrinated to turn inward in our community against each other and against ourselves. We must remember how they stole the strength of unity from us. We must remember the cruelty, our blood seeping into the soil of this country. We must remember every strike of the whip. We must remember every ripping apart of our men between horses. We must remember how they deprived our women of the comfort and strength of our men, and our children of the comfort and strength of their fathers. We must remember that we could not even nurse our own babies because we were made to nurse their babies. We must remember the dusk to dawn and dawn to dusk, uncompensated labor. We must remember the slavery by another name imposed upon us by the black codes and Jim Crow. We must remember that there were an estimated confirmed 8,146 African descendants lynched between slavery and 1981. We must remember that as late as 1981, Michael Donald, a 19-year-old African descendant, was beaten and lynched by the Ku Klux Klan. We must remember the recent hangings that strangely we heard about in the news, but no one seems to have documented or placed on the various resources like Google and YouTube. We wear a daily reminder, one that I believe explicitly reminds us every day to remember it is our skin that is unlike any other skin, no matter what the shade. We are blessed, fearfully and wonderfully blessed, on purpose. The thing that made others hate us so is our biggest blessing, and it is our skin that reminds us the power in our melanin that should strengthen our and encourage us to be who we were called and chosen to be. I'm encouraged by the awakening that I see in African descendants. The hold that the Willie Lynch method placed on us, that was said to have a hold on us for at least 300 years, is wearing off. It was in 1712 that Willie Lynch guaranteed that his method would last for at least 300 years. It is 2025 and our people are waking up. Our people are woke. Our people are preparing to fight that battle with the acrimous, opaque-minded subgroup wants to bring on. I recall the words of the great Gil Scott-Heron that the revolution will not be televised, the revolution will be live. Anyone who wants to read or hear that poem needs to only go to YouTube, look up Gil Scott-Heron, and the revolution will not be televised if it hasn't already been taken down. There's a prologue in this book, and I will be reading it and going over it as well. That will be the next thing I do. It's really like a little story. It's fictional, but it's set in the Jim Crow era. I believe Mr. Packard, in writing of his book, sought to convey the climate of the times with the story. I'll try to go through that as quickly as I can, but there are also some things that the prologue that I want to go over and explore. So I will conclude this portion of the examination of the preface, and we will be moving on to the next part. All right, so that is the end of the preface for the book, The American Nightmare and the History of Jim Crow. That is just the preface. We're going on to do a few more things in the book. So thank you for joining me. Peace and blessings. And remember, always, always stay woke. If people are making an accusation and they're making something evil of wokeness, especially the acrimous, opaque-minded subgroup, stay woke, y'all. Whatever you need to do to stay woke, stay woke. Okay? All righty. We'll see y'all next time. Love you.